Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Lana.
Good morning.
How are you doing? We've been chatting already, so
I know.
Yeah.
I'm good.
So
I'm good.
let everybody know how you're doing.
I'm good. I was taking a bit of. I woke up every half hour from 4 a.m. on, thinking, "Oh my gosh, what if I sleep through this?"
Oh,
Which, if you know my life, you know that's not possible because
right.
there's a
Yeah.
tribe of small humans here that are not going to allow me to sleep through this.
You
So
have a couple of alarm clocks that I think that
several.
you've got backup.
I have a handful.
Backup.
5. I have 5. Yeah. Yeah.
So you go ahead and introduce yourself. I'm going to share to our pages, and away we'll
Okay.
go.
Okay. So I am Lana, lifer, longer friend of this beautiful human being that is going to
Yes.
speak to me. We've been friends for a long time, and she asked me to come on and just talk about my life stuff. So
I did.
I'm a foster. We're a foster family. We are an adoptive family. We are a family who is walking through recovery from addiction. That's my own personal story. Yeah, we're just
It was
whatever.
when I was trying to get the event ready, and I'm like, okay, and we're gonna talk about this, and I kept like adding one more thing onto onto the thing. I'm like, I think I'm just gonna say and much more.
Yes, and much more. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess where should we begin?
Where you
How
tell me.
about why don't you? You know what? Let's talk. The first thing we'll talk about is the foster parenting, because
Okay.
we were just talking about that, and we want to kind of talk about some things that surround that I think I don't know if it's miscommunication or lack of understanding or what, I don't know the right word for it, but let's talk about how did that come into your life, you guys, as a family, because you have 4 kids
of our own.
Of your own.
So
and who are all grown now, which I still can't believe.
I know.
From when we were all together, like way back when, it's like now, like one's married and you've got like grandbabies, and it's like, oh my gosh, like it does go by fast.
I know. It does. Yeah. It so does. You wake up one day and it's like, boom, here we are. Yeah. I think, so we have 4 adult biological children, and I think fostering, like I used to tell my mom, I remember this as clear as day too, when I was like 5. I used to tell her that I was going to adopt babies from Africa and different places. Like I talked, oh wow. I mean, so obviously that desire was planted deep within me from a very early age, and I think that's a God thing, right? Like you start to have these desires and notions that, okay, like maybe that's what I'm going to do with my life, and just always drawn to nurturing and helping and doing life with little people. And so we've been fostering for 7 years now, and 7 years. I know.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah. So KJ is our adopted daughter, and she was our very first placement, and she's going to be 7 at the end of June. So she came to us at a day and a half old, and bittersweet.
I still remember the day you got the notice with the papers. You did a
our
video
adoption papers
in the post office. I'll never forget that, and it makes me choke up when I think about it.
That was a bittersweet day. It was it was validation and confirmation of her permanency with us. but I bawled all the way home
Yeah.
because my heart was broken for her mama,
Yeah.
right? It meant so our gain was somebody else's
Yes.
massive loss,
Right.
like
Yeah.
massive loss. And I never, ever, ever take that for granted. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think of her mama every day. How can I not? I look into those big
Right.
brown eyes and
Yeah.
crazy long eyelashes and I see her mom.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, so it was just kind of a watching some families at our church do it. And I think the biggest piece of it for me was just that profound nurturing instinct within me that I just didn't feel like I was done parenting, which
Mm.
call me crazy because my kids, when they were teenagers, gave me a run for my money. So why I'm doing this, why we are doing this completely like full blown second time around again, I don't know.
Right.
I, you, when so when you're called to do this,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of crazy that
Mm-hmm.
God places in those of us that are doing this
Right.
because it's a crazy life. And so you have to be okay with all the crazy and the chaos and um, just all the hard and the challenge
Mm-hmm.
that comes with it because it's not that we're not running a day home, right?
Right.
This
And
is
that's,
this
yeah,
is
we wanted
24 hours a day, 7 days a week,
yeah.
and you're not just working with the kids, you're working with the kids. I work very closely with the biological parents of the kids, which a lot of foster parents choose not to do for their own reasons that are valid.
Mm.
Um, but I do think that it's a very important piece of the work that we do is to build relationship with them as well.
Right.
And then you're working with the system.
Mm-hmm.
And the system it's just not an easy place to be in. But it's a
Right.
beautiful, broken, gratifying, challenging, make you want to rip your hair out, love it,
Mm-hmm.
calling. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I know it's I've got people that obviously in my family that have done the same thing
Right.
too, and I mean it's like we were saying, it's a place where unless you're in it, you don't understand
You don't. No.
it because
No.
it's hard for I think it's hard for people to understand how do you do that and then give them back, or
Mm.
how do you not adopt all of them? And
Right.
there's that, I think there's that misconception too, that when you foster kids, you're going to
Yeah.
adopt them, and
Yeah. No.
that isn't the case in all
No.
cases.
I mean, I can speak to that. So you can give them back.
Mhm.
Believe me, there's some of them that I'm like, oh, come and get them, come and get them. Like I'm,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I mean, when we first started our journey, and even now, people that are curious about fostering, I always get the same thing. I could never do that. I could never give them back. It would kill me.
Mhm.
Yes, you could do it. Yes, you could give them back because they're not yours to keep, so that choice is made for you.
Mhm.
Um, and it wouldn't kill you. I have had little people whom we thought we were going to adopt. We thought that there was potential there for that. That were picked up and removed from our home to be returned to a parent on an hour's notice. So
Yeah.
um, you hand them over and you close the door and you fall face down on the floor and you suck snot and tears out of the carpet and you grieve. And then you get up and you pick yourself up and you dust yourself off and you wait for the next placement to come, because that's what this journey is about. They're not all meant to come and stay forever.
Mhm.
I truly believe that. The ones, if you're getting into fostering to adopt, then you're not fostering,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're wanting to adopt permanently, fostering is not the way to go about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
The goal is to get them back to
absolutely.
their biological parents.
Plan A is their biological parents. Plan A
Yeah.
is family. Plan A is always reunification. And I am absolutely for that whenever it's safe and healthy and vibrant and possible. Plan A doesn't always look the way maybe we would like it to.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can go home to somebody who has been able to change not so great choices to better choices,
Yeah.
who can provide for them. If they eat Kraft dinner and hot dogs for the rest of their lives, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care as long as they can, as long as mom and dad or whoever it is are doing their best and providing to the best of their ability for these little people or for the older kids, whatever, and they're not they're not being returned to an abusive,
Right.
neglectful situation, which is why they were apprehended in the first place. Yeah, then I'm totally supportive of that.
I think this is what's interesting about your situation, and this is just me looking in,
Yep.
is knowing what you've gone through
Right.
a little bit.
Yep.
Not fully, but a little bit.
Yeah.
And being connected with these people who are making maybe not great decisions, and
Right.
they are in the throes of horrible things.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful pairing.
It is really I mean, I
Because
think
you have the capacity where a lot of people don't have that capacity to understand that change can happen.
right. Well, I mean, when I look at myself and I look at the biological parents that I work with, I was them. The only difference
Right.
between me and them is my kids weren't apprehended,
Right.
but they should have been. According to what I have seen, the
Mm-hmm.
reasons that we've had 30 kids come through our home now, the reasons for many of those apprehensions were very similar to the lifestyle that I was living, that our kids were living in our home. Our kids should have been apprehended,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we weren't physically abusing them, but I was not in a good headspace in my alcoholism. I was
Yeah.
drinking myself into oblivion every day and going through the motions. There
Right.
was there neglect and was there things like that? Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah.
I hated myself. I couldn't stand
Right.
myself. So how could I be a good mom? How could I make good choices, right?
Yeah.
So it's very, very precious to me. It's a privilege to think that God would take my train wreck of a past and redeem it in this way, where He has me doing just this and seeing and saying to me, see, right? I can
Yeah.
take your mess. I can take your mess and turn it around and have you working in that very area.
Yeah. That's where
So
I think it's so beautiful, because these people, they're doing the best, like they are
they're
in the
doing
midst,
what they know.
right?
Yeah.
And so to be able to see someone who can relate to them on a level that
Yeah.
is not just like, you need to get yourself cleaned up and you need to this and you need to,
Yeah.
like, you can understand, you can empathize with them, and you can, like, they can look at you and go, it's possible. That's what I
Yeah.
think is so beautiful, because it's not only that you're helping these kids, you're also helping these adults.
Right.
And that's that's what I think is so amazing and beautiful about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
it's one of my favorite parts is just being able to, because let me tell you, when and I'm very open with the workers when we get a placement, like they will, a worker will say, are you willing to meet the parents? And I'm like, absolutely. And they always go, really?
Really?
Wow, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been pretty priceless. One of my favorite things is to walk into the room and have the parents look at me, just my presence, right? I'm all inked up. I've got piercings on my
Yeah.
face. I am not at all what they would have thought
Right.
a foster mom was going to look like. Like, I think they think we're all little old grannies that are
Right.
going to come in our slippers and our house coats. I don't know what they
Yeah.
think. But then I show up and I'm like, hey, I'm your baby's foster mom. And they're like,
What?
you know,
Yeah.
wait
Right.
a second. And then,
Yeah.
you know, like, wait a second, like you've got tattoos and, you know, and I have a history with addiction. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm usually not immediately, but I'm usually fairly quick to when I get that God nudge to share that information, I share it because
Right.
it just puts them at ease. It puts them
I
at ease and makes them
Yeah.
go, okay,
Yeah.
like,
And
you know,
that's so incredible because it would be mortifying and all the horrible things that becomes where you get to that point where you're now in this situation and you've got somebody
yeah,
coming in to take away your kids.
yeah,
Like, I don't care what anybody thinks. That person is at the lowest they can possibly be,
yeah,
probably. And they do
devastating,
not
yeah,
need one more person looking
judging,
at them,
no,
being judgmental and being
no,
harsh. They need somebody who gets it and who
yeah,
understands it and who can make that transition slightly easier. I don't know.
yeah,
Like,
yep,
it's just that's what's incredible about it. And that, to me, that's what helps change the system.
right,
It's not just the kids are here, like now the kids are taken away. Because what happens to those people? Are they getting the help they need? Do they have, like, I don't know how that even works, but like,
yeah,
do they just get, okay, now the kids are taken away, so, figure it out. And you got
right,
to do these things to be, in accordance to the rules, I guess. But like, that's great. But what about their care? They need care,
yep,
you know?
yep,
And
yep,
so to be able to see somebody who has gone through that and come out on the other side
yeah,
is beautiful. And I think
yeah,
we should probably we should talk about that too, because how people are going to be like, well, how did you become a foster parent if that was
right,
like, how does that
yeah,
work, right? So
yeah, yeah.
let's back up and talk about that too. So
Okay.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and I remember having a conversation with one of my sisters, and I was saying, like, we were kind of chatting about foster parenting and stuff, and I
Hmm.
said, well, like, I'm a recovering alcoholic. Like, I don't know, like, they won't take me.
Hmm.
Like, there's no way that they'll let me near kids. And she was like, well, I don't know, just ask. Like, just ask
Right.
them straight out. And so that's what I did. I had made a call to the agency that we work with, and they sent somebody out to the house just to have that kind of initial conversation to see if you would be a fit or not. And that was I've had many humbling moments in my walk in
Hmm.
recovery. Um, but it was very humbling to just sit and look at somebody and say, so I have a past and it's pretty, you know,
Yeah.
intense. Am I allowed to do this?
Hmm.
And she just got the biggest smile and said, well, I mean, people struggle, right?
Yeah.
And so long story short, obviously, um, there was, like it wasn't, it's not easy to become a foster parent. There's a
Hmm.
big process that you need to go through. Ours was probably a little more challenging and a little more in depth because of both of our backgrounds and childhood trauma and things
Hmm.
like that. So I had to undergo just quite a bit of psychological testing
Yeah.
and things like that. Um, and the reason why they do that is to protect us. right? Like they fostering, if there's trauma in your life, fostering is the one thing that's going to trigger all of it.
Right.
All of it, because you're you're
Well, you're
living
back
secondary
into
trauma. Yeah,
right.
you're living secondary trauma
Yeah.
every day with these kids and their parents and the choices that they're making and the things that they're doing and the stuff that's going on in their lives, right? And so it can be one big massive trigger. So you have to kind of be in that healed enough and then that ongoing healing headspace to be able to do this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've been in the last 7 years, I've been in and out of therapy for different reasons on our journey, because it's an incredibly challenging journey.
I would think it should be something that probably I think everybody should be in therapy, but you know,
So do
over
I.
over the age of 25, you better get in there.
Yeah, I
It should
agree.
just be like a weekly thing that people
I
have
agree.
to do. It should just be part of life, but
Yeah.
there's a whole stigma around that too, which is crazy.
I know.
But anyways, I would think that there should be that, especially what you're doing, because
Yeah.
there would bring up and even when you think, and I know we've gone through this before, where you think you've got it, like I'm good,
For sure.
some weird little thing will come up and just set you off and be like, where did that come from? I guess I'm not there yet.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because you know we were just trudging along through our fostering journey, and then as you already know, it'll be 2 years ago soon that we had a babe pass away.
Yes.
In our care, and I kind of thought I was fine. I thought I had done all this work and that, you know, I was just good to go now. And then that happened and was the biggest eye-opener I have ever had in my life, that I had a ton of work that still needed to be done. I had a ton of unprocessed trauma that needed to be processed and filed away in here properly. Right? I'd still been, and it explained so much about me and about my it's snack time. Anyways, yeah, so just realizing that, oh my goodness, I had been walking around my whole life still in fight or flight, living in fight or flight. So hence the addiction to alcohol.
Yeah.
Hence, experimenting with different kinds of drugs and things like that when I was young. Like, hence all of that. It explained everything. Yeah. So when she passed away, and initially that was it. Never going to foster again. Never going to foster again. Never going to go. What do you need? Sorry.
That's okay.
Kate,
I'll read some comments.
You need to grab your snack and get going.
Oh, Michael Foster. I'm just going to read this. Michael Foster, just while you're doing the snack thing.
Yeah.
He said, Lana, that's awesome. I was adopted at 8. I was in and out of foster homes and group homes till I was taken in by an amazing family. Without people like you guys, it's untelling where I would have been. Thank you for what you guys are doing.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Thanks for sharing that, Michael. This is exactly why I love having these conversations, because somebody is watching, and it's going to hit and strike and inspire somebody and just reassure them or whatever. So going back to what you were saying, that experience is something I don't know how you got through that, because
I don't know. Jesus, that's how I got through
Right.
it.
Yeah.
For me, that's, and you know me, you know my
Yeah.
faith, you know what I believe.
Yeah.
That is how that's the only reason I got through it. Because although I did not want to end my own life after that happened, I very much wanted my life to end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't about to take my own life,
Yeah.
but he could have taken me. I used
And
to
you were,
at
yeah.
at quiet time, I used to lay my girls down, and then like Leighton would be at work and Megan wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
home or whatever, and I would curl up in my bed in the fetal position and just beg Jesus to take me home. Like just
Yeah.
take, because when you're under that amount of, like, that was a massive trauma. That's probably
Oh my gosh.
one of the biggest
Absolutely.
traumas that someone could go through, right? Is waking up to a baby that has passed away.
Yeah.
And then having to, we lived out in the country, so I was performing CPR for 22 minutes until they got there, and it was just a whole.
Yeah.
There was a lot, um, but it was like, I remember being so angry at God and saying, like, why would you put me through that?
Right.
And now looking back on this side of things,
Mm-hmm.
I can see exactly why. Because it was that pivotal moment in time where he took trauma and absolute tragedy and heartbreak
Mm-hmm.
and used it to show me that I wasn't healing.
Right.
I wasn't healing at
Yeah.
all. I was kind of just doing a little bit of work here and there and going through the motions. And yes, I had overcome my addiction to alcohol with him. And yes, I was walking in recovery. And no, I haven't had a slip and all of those great things. But I wasn't really living. Like, I wasn't really free from that fight or flight all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so a couple months after she passed, I remember Leighton coming home, and I was sitting outside on the step because I couldn't be in the house.
Mm.
And he just sat down beside me and he said, maybe it's time for you to see someone. Like, maybe it's time for you to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And there was just that little, if it's impacting my family now, right? And so
Right.
I reached out to our support worker and said, I think it's time. I think I'm ready to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And our agency was amazing. They were just a massive support in that. They got me in and got the ball rolling, and
Mm-hmm.
got me going with an amazing therapist.
Yeah.
And we did EMDR. If you have trauma, if you have past trauma in your life, can I just
Yes.
EMDR,
I want to
Carly,
talk about
no,
that
it
because
saved my life. It saved my life.
I remember you posting about it, like
Yep.
back when you were going through that, and I remember
Yep.
thinking, I need to message her because I don't know what that means or what kind of, like, what is that? So please
Yep.
tell us what that is, because
Y-
this is the other thing. People maybe have never heard of that. They don't know what it is. Is
Right.
that some kind of
Yeah.
weird, like, what does that even mean?
Well, and
So
it's
what?
funny
Yeah,
because, so don't hold me to pronouncing what EMDR stands for,
we can
because
Google it.
yes, please just Google it. Um, it's a type of therapy. So, I mean, when you go through a pretty intense trauma,
Mm-hmm.
your amygdala does this and shuts everything off. So it's here. It literally takes over. And that's what puts you in that fight or flight. And when it's an intense trauma, the amygdala won't let go. So it just sits. This is the easiest way
Now
for me to explain it.
that's in your brain.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like it takes the trauma and goes, oh, and it won't let it go
Hangs on to it.
and hangs on to it. So if you've had lots of trauma in your life, your amygdala has done this probably from very early on and is always like this, and then having this big trauma happen, Um, just it's that one thing that, like, is this going to push me over the edge? Anyways, I remember my support worker. I have lost a lot of memory from that trauma, and part of me is thankful that
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot. But I will also say that Jesus and me did some incredible healing together through that journey.
Yeah.
So I'm super thankful that he has been gracious and merciful and just, taken away the ugly that I was hanging so tightly onto, and just, he does. I mean, he
Yeah.
takes the ugly and he makes it beautiful, right? That's what he does. Um, but anyways, I remember them saying to me, like, a couple days after she had passed, they were like, um, we just thought maybe you'd be interested in EMDR and blah, blah, blah. And so they sent me via email, they sent me these links. And I was like, no, like, that just sounds weird. No,
Right.
I'm not going to sit and tap on my legs no, no. Anyways, so I started going and seeing the therapist, and we had a couple of sessions without EMDR, and we're making a little bit of progress. And then she suggested to me, what do you think about EMDR? And I said, I don't know, it sounds like nonsense to me, but maybe explain it to me.
Yeah.
And so she explained it to me, and I said, well, what she said that caught me was it will speed up your healing in this area. Right? Yeah. And so then I was like,
Let's bring it
okay. Now you've got my attention, because I don't want to live like this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't live like this.
Right.
And so I was willing. And so we started doing EMDR. So you can read up on it, you guys. Just Google it and read up on it. But anyways, basically, she gives you a little machine, and you can hold these little probe things in each hand, or I tucked them under my legs because I was hanging onto a pillow for comfort. And basically what it is you go back to the memory. And this is why a lot of people don't want to do EMDR, because you need to,
it again.
Right? You need to relive the memory. You need to relive the trauma so that you can process it. And so they have a little machine, and you can adjust the speed of the pulses and the vibration, the intensity of the vibration. And your therapist or whatever just kind of verbally walks you through it as you need it. And so the vibrating and the pulsing actually help your brain to process the trauma properly and file it in your brain where it never had the opportunity to go. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So the tricky part for me is when she said, EMDR is going to be amazing for you, but, and I was like, oh. And she said, the problem with EMDR is it won't work for this trauma until we work through your other trauma that needs to be processed. So we need to go back to your earliest memories of trauma.
Oh, boy.
And work through them all.
Oh, boy.
And I actually burst into tears. And people who know me know that I love Jesus, but I cuss a little sometimes.
Right.
So I looked at her and said, are you effing kidding me?
Yeah.
And
Because who wants to do that?
No, really?
Sorry, I'm out.
Yeah. So I literally started to cry, but it was like an angry cry.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you're taking me back to about 2 to 3 years old, because that's my earliest memory that I can. And so anyways, long story short, we did it. We knocked off trauma after trauma, session after session, and until we finally worked our way up to the death of the little one that we had. And I pushed through it.
Yeah.
And we did the session, and what EMDR does too is because everything gets processed and filed where it should be, it's not sitting in your amygdala anymore, and your amygdala can actually relax, right, and let go and not be taking over your brain. So it allowed me now, when I think of her and when I think of those moments in time and that memory, it's my brain has processed it. So I'm not living the trauma over and over and over again. Right? It's not ugly anymore.
And that's not. I think especially with death, people, you get caught up in the moment of the death.
Yes.
And people, that's the memory people remember. They don't.
Yep.
Because exactly what you're saying, your brain is like,
yeah,
all that's happening. So it's like a stuck recording.
It is. That's exactly
what
it is.
Terrible thing that happened.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, I'm glad you explained that, because I was gonna message you about that like way back when, and then of course like 50-year-old brains don't work the same as 40-year-old brains. I forgot, but I really wanted to know more about that, and I didn't Google it and stuff, but I kept meaning to do that. So I'm glad you talked about that, because I think it's also important for people to understand that going and doing those things is so important, and you're not.
It is.
You're not a bad person because you need to go to a therapist, and there's all those stigmas around that. Yeah. They're not true.
Well, and even, for me it was hard because I did all the work, and I actually processed a crap load of trauma in a very short period of time with her in doing the EMDR. And so I wrapped up my sessions and wasn't seeing her anymore, and still just not feeling like, okay, I've done the work, but I still feel sad. I still feel depressed and anxious and stuff. So I went to see my doctor and said to him just that. Like, I've done all the work. I've done the EMDR. We had multiple sessions. And I still feel sad. I still feel depressed. I still feel just out of sorts. And he said, so then we do meds. And there's such a stigma around meds. And when he explained it to me, he said, Lana, I know your life. I know much of what you've been through. And he said, you've been in fight or flight for so long that your happy hormones, your cortisol, your
all your things.
Now I can't. Yes, all your things. I can't think of it right now. But all of that is totally depleted, right? And so let's try some meds and see if that helps. And so to this day, I'm taking, it's Prozac, fluoxetine, they call it. And it definitely helps. And I will take it for as long as I need to. There's no shame in that for me. There's no, I know that I'm on my meds because I need them and they help me. Yep. And I know that because I can function and because I can get through daily life as a pretty decent human being, that tells me that I need my meds and that I need to stay on them, right?
Right. Yeah.
Biggest mistake people make when they go on meds is coming off of them as soon as they start to feel better.
Yep.
You feel better because you're on your meds.
The meds.
Stay on your meds.
That is, and I've known so many people that's the very thing that exactly happens. Oh, I'm feeling so good, and so then and don't wean off.
Nope, they just stop taking them.
And then it's a whole mess of, it's just not, it's not pretty.
Yeah, for sure.
I've probably twice in my life have been on antidepressants. I don't remember what they were, but in different stages of my life have taken them and taken them for as long as I needed them, and then did not take them anymore. So there shouldn't be a stigma around that. And if you need them, you need them. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, and I've even had that come up with fostering, right? Like where people have said to me, well, like with everything you've been through, and like you take antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication and stuff, are they okay with that? And I'm like, well, yeah. Because my medication is what allows me to be
to do this.
A fully functioning foster parent. Doesn't mean I don't struggle, don't get me wrong. I definitely have bad days and struggle, and I mean this whole COVID pandemic thing, and I obviously can't get into details about what our placement situation is with the kiddos that we have in our care, but let's just say that it's crazier than it's ever been amidst a global pandemic.
Right.
So, yeah, I was actually starting to wean off of my meds the week before lockdown happened. and then
that plan.
And then lockdown happened, and the day that they said the schools were closed, I looked at Leighton and went, "Oop, back on my meds." Like, oh,
yeah,
like because
now you're throwing homeschooling in the mix.
Oh.
So how's that going? Let's talk about homeschooling. What grade is that?
Grade 1. So we had one in grade 1 and then one in ECS, one in preschool. Preschool one is that's not so bad.
That's okay.
But for KJ, just with the circumstances surrounding her coming into care with, pre-exposure and stuff like that, her little brain is wired very, very differently than a lot of kiddos. And so her brain needs that structure and that routine and that consistency and stuff. And so typically every year come summer holidays, I see all the mamas posting about, oh, I can't wait to have the summer off with my kids and be with them every day, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you all crazy. Because if we could do year-round school, I'd be doing year-round school.
They always But they always do that post, and then about 3 weeks in, the posts change.
And then I'm like,
no, you don't want to be with them all the time. We love them, but we don't want to be with them all the time.
Not all the time. No. Not all the time. No. Everybody needs a break. But yeah, even the pandemic itself has been incredibly challenging for those of us that struggle with mental health issues. Incredibly challenging. Yeah.
It's a little different because you can't just go and have if you want to go and have a coffee or a tea somewhere or go and have I don't care what you're doing, but go and do something away from, a couple hours.
Well, and not just that, but for those of us that have trauma in our past, the pandemic has been a massive trigger yet again, because it's all of a sudden it's instant change, it's instant uncertainty, it's like I have been almost non-existent on social media through this pandemic because I can't do it.
Wise decision.
Yeah.
Wise decision. If I didn't work on social media, I would probably be out because I've said it often, I would probably delete Facebook because
me too. Yeah.
It's just there's a lot of just not good things. So I try to minimize that part on Facebook because other platforms aren't as bad. I don't find
I find that too.
But it is, the hardest thing I think right now, what I've found is when you are trying to be a positive, put out positivity and that's where the focus is for, I try to make that my focus. Not every day is that, but that's what I want to put out there.
Yeah.
It's challenging because you want to get on some posts and just go and just say things that aren't nice.
I know.
And then I'm like, no, I better put my phone down now.
Yeah.
Because it's just crazy. The craziness of
it. I have hit the backspace delete button several times. And then I was like, Kate, no, I just can't. I can't.
Yeah. And why am I even bothering? Who cares, really? In the big picture, who cares, right?
Yeah.
So it is, I think for everybody, it's just now you're at home with everybody all the time, and that
Hmm.
does it can be very hard.
I'm thankful because with the placements that we do have and the teams that I'm working with,
Hmm.
that, that are involved with the kids that we have, they have been incredibly supportive
Yeah.
with our situation and stuff. So that makes a world of difference.
Oh,
Yeah,
I bet. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
We'll
you guys
survive
would
it.
definitely, yeah, for sure. And I think things are going to start to slowly, like hopefully slowly come back to
Yep.
some kind of whatever normal will be and all of
Yeah,
that stuff. But
yeah.
yeah, it's a crazy time in this
It
world,
is. It is.
to say the
It is.
least. But
Yeah, yeah.
um, I wanted to ask you something else, and now it's gone out of my 50-year-old brain.
Oh, there you go.
Dang it. Oh well, it'll
That's
it'll either
okay.
come back or it's gone forever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Now, I guess so. You guys have a very busy household.
yeah,
I want to talk a little bit about what you guys do as a couple to keep that going because that's all consuming. I mean,
yeah,
not right now, obviously, when we're in a pandemic and you're at home, and like I'm not talking about now,
yeah,
but like, what
yeah,
did you guys do for yourselves as a couple to kind of take care and foster that relationship when you've got
yeah,
all these people?
yeah.
Because
And
that's important.
it's super important. Well, we take one weekend a month,
Hmm.
um, just where the little people go to a respite provider's home,
Hmm.
and we have the weekend to ourselves to just, regroup and refresh and do whatever,
Hmm.
date nights or coffee dates or
Yeah.
movie nights, eat popcorn in bed or,
Hmm.
whatever the case may be. Um, I think it's a lot of intentional connecting, where like you grab those few moments in the morning before everybody, like we have a little coffee bar in our bedroom
Mm.
so that we don't even have
Oh,
to open the
nice.
door. Yeah, because if they hear us open the door to go down and get a coffee, we're
Game over.
hooped.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just have a little coffee bar in our room and we get up like probably an hour to 2 hours before the kids get up and
Hmm.
just, talk and sip coffee and scroll and, you know, talk to
Yeah.
Jesus, do whatever we're doing, right? Before the
Right.
chaos kicks
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important because I mean, little people are consuming, and
All
because
consuming. Yeah.
that's their job.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and our little people are
well, that's all.
all
Yeah, it's a
consuming in a completely different
different way.
way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're dealing with little people who, you know, have all kinds of trauma and stuff, different things
Hmm.
going on. So, yeah, makes it very different.
So, do you guys keep a very? Are you guys like have a pretty much a daily schedule like with your little ones? Because that's the other thing I want
Yeah.
to talk about is how everybody that I've had come on lately, just about how they're doing that in their house right now, just to keep the sanity,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
going.
I don't have it. I'm like when it comes to like laying out a day time by
Yeah.
time slot,
Hmm.
on a whiteboard or a calendar, meal planning stuff. No, that's not
Yeah.
me. I'm not
Yeah.
wired that way. My brain knows what we need to do and when we need to do it. So
Right.
it's all filed here
There.
and the day just unfolds, kind of in
As
the
it
same
should.
way.
Yeah.
But our days look very similar routine
Hmm.
wise most of the time, but can change so quickly depending on whose behaviors are presenting and who,
Hmm.
what's happening to set somebody off or,
Yeah.
whatever. So
Right.
yeah, our kiddos really struggle with, um, if change is too quick, right? And there's not a, yeah.
Yeah.
So for instance, the word coming down the pipe on a Sunday that the kids were not going back to school Monday morning
Hmm.
was like, it was hard for most kids that I'm aware
Mm-hmm.
of. But for KJ, it was tenfold because,
Mm,
right, there
yeah.
was kind of the wait a second that everybody was feeling, and the I didn't get to say goodbye to my teachers, I didn't get to say goodbye to my
Yeah.
friends, all
Mm-hmm.
of that. But there was also just the structure of her day was
Right.
literally gone with no notice. It was
Mm-hmm.
like, you're not going to school tomorrow. Oh, but then I can go the next day.
Yeah.
No. Right? And it's been, what, 9 weeks of that now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think for kids without a lot of challenges, this maybe is also the thing where they're going to go, actually, I kind of like school. Like,
Oh, yeah.
maybe, like, I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of positive things that'll come out of this because it'll be an
Yeah.
appreciation for your teachers. It's going to be appreciation for school.
For
Like,
sure.
it makes me laugh when I see the posts about, like, somebody, it was a vehicle, and on the window there was a sign, "You lied, my kid is not a joy to have in class."
Right?
I started because I think there will be a little flip of the switch there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Well, and like the one thing that I noticed, I'm not wired to homeschool. That's not
oh
my, I'm not that mom. I would do it if I absolutely had to, but I I just extended grace to KJ and myself fairly quickly and said, you know what, no pressure. If you get your schoolwork done, you get it done. And I
yeah,
texted with her teacher as I could see that it was going to be challenging to make this happen, and just said, I'm going to be totally transparent with you.
hmm
This will probably not happen more often than it will happen.
hmm
Um, and her teacher's been great. She's been so understanding and so gracious, and
yeah,
just, I took the pressure off of us. I mean, it's grade 1.
right,
She's going into grade 2 no matter what,
hmm
and she's a little firecracker
yeah,
when it comes to school anyways. So even her teacher, just said, I'm not worried about her. So
right.
that took a lot of pressure off.
Yeah, and that's people do need to give them like everybody needs that grace because nobody
For
knows what they're
sure.
doing. And
No.
I'm with you on the homeschooling thing. I said to Ashley, I sent her a message and I was like, "Aren't you glad this didn't happen when you were little?" She's like,
Right?
"Yes, I am." Yep.
Oh,
Oh, it would
yeah.
have been, I can't even. I
No.
can't even because
No.
back then, I wanted to talk about this as well, is
Yeah.
getting into the comparison game and the whole like parenting and you with additional when you're fostering as moms. I don't know if dads do this, maybe they do, they just don't talk about it, but like
Yeah.
women have that bad thing where we do that comparison and, oh, look at that one who's
Right.
doing all the things and I'm not geared that way, I can't do those things, and
Yeah.
actually I don't want to do those
Right.
things. That
Yeah.
would be more like it. But
Yeah.
like back when our kids were all little, like that was one of my biggest challenges and hurdles,
Yeah.
was that very thing,
Yeah.
was comparing myself to everybody else and what
Yeah.
everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
And it did drive me to drink.
Yeah. Me
More
too.
times than it didn't.
Me too. I
Yeah.
mean, I think you and I struggled with much of the same things
Yeah.
when it came to that kind of stuff, and that's why I was drinking myself to the bottom of a bottle on a regular
hmm
basis, because I just never felt like I measured up. I never felt good enough, and I had people in my life that were um, sending me that message
Yeah.
on a very regular basis, right? And
Yeah.
so I was hearing that, and
Yeah.
although they were lies, they weren't the truth about me.
hmm
I was taking them in and letting them take up space.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's like, I mean, it, it, for the longest time it was all about, like, I have to be this and I have to be that and it has to be perfect, and just
Yeah.
all this striving for perfection, and striving when you, like, I'm 51 now, and I I have just recently stopped striving
Yeah.
for that perfection because it's not going to come. We're not going to achieve it. And when you wake up one day and you realize that and you let everything go and you're like, okay, so I've got 20 extra pounds on my body right now. I don't have
Yeah.
time for myself a whole lot right now. I don't, like
Yeah.
I, it, amidst a pandemic, my hair is crazy, so I shaved it again.
Yep.
And then found out 2 days after I shaved it that salons were going to open up 2 weeks later.
I know, but your hair will grow in that time anyway.
No, it will.
Good.
It will. It's like my hairdresser was
hair
like,
for 4 people. So
I know that's my hairdresser was like, whatever, it'll grow back like tomorrow.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, it was just this whole. Actually, the pandemic has been really good for that because it's just this whole letting go
Right.
of, right? Like, I love human beings, but I don't care what you think. Like, it's none of my business what you think about me. I don't care anymore. And I don't mean that I don't care in a unloving, unkind way.
No.
I don't have time to care. I just don't have time to care.
Yeah.
We get one shot,
Exactly.
and
yes.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think back to that time often about when we were all together.
Yeah.
And friends. And all I can relate it to, which I'm thankful for it because we're friends and we've come out on the other side. But it is that period of time is proof that who you surround yourself with
absolutely
is what's going to happen in your life. And we were a group of broken people. That's all. Well,
brokenness attracts brokenness, right? And light and love and life and freedom and redemption and all of that attracts that. I have it's a trigger for me when I'm around people who are living maybe a lifestyle that I used to live or in a mindset that I used to be in. It can trigger me, and I have to, all of a sudden I find myself saying, okay, Jesus, like I need a new prescription of Jesus goggles to be able to see this human being through your eyes and not through, right? Because I can be like, oh, I cannot be around you. I can't, like, and that's okay. I don't surround myself and spend constant time.
Yeah.
But, do spend time talking to people who are struggling with addiction and stuff like that. I'm going to be teaching a class at a women's recovery center starting in September, I believe. Yeah,
very cool.
It's the staying sober class. So it's just kind of like you just watch God redeem your life and go, oh, wow.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're not you can spend time with people in that capacity, but like you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to be surrounded by that old.
No. Well, there was a lot
of things in that time period I take away that I still remember and laugh, and there's parts of that was awesome. But I think about what we were all doing, and I just kind of go, what was what in the what were we doing?
Yeah.
It was so crazy. It was so crazy.
And I mean, I think we were just doing what we knew to do at the time.
Yeah.
Right?
It's all we could do.
Same thing now. We're, now you come out the other side and now you're doing what you know to do.
Yeah.
You can't do better if you don't know better.
Right.
You have to know better to be able to do better.
And that's where forgiveness comes into play.
Yeah.
And you're the one who got that message finally through to me about forgiveness. I always credit you to that because it was, I forget it was a post I did or something, and you came on and it was whatever, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was like, forgiveness is not about it's about you.
It is.
And I was like, it just, at that moment, it just struck me. And I mean, you
Yeah.
hear that over and over again, and you kind of go,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, whatever. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't
Yeah.
get it. And that day it struck me, and that day I got it. And it was
Yeah.
like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
Because people, well, I can only speak for myself. I shouldn't say people. Myself, it's like,
Yeah.
if I forgive that person for what they've done to me,
It lets them off the hook.
they're off the hook.
Yeah.
And that means their behavior's okay. And what they did was okay. And that isn't it at all.
No.
That's not it at
No.
all.
No.
And we've had to go through a lot of forgiveness of people.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Some may be the same people.
Yep. Yep.
You know, from that
Yep.
time. But I mean, there's been we both have our own journeys and stuff. But like,
Yep.
that is it's hard to grasp that, but once you do, holy cow, the weight that is lifted from
Yeah.
carrying that junk around.
Yeah. Well, and it's forgiveness needs to come for yourself too. Like I needed to forgive myself over and over and over again for things that I had done and you know, things that I had just allowed to come into my life and choices that I had made based on that and stuff. And so for me, it was, learning how to forgive myself for the choices that I'd made, and then being able to start to forgive people who had wounded me in different ways. And forgiveness, I mean, the one thing about forgiveness is oftentimes it's a sorry that you want, but you're never, ever, ever going to get. You're never going to get it from, there's certain situations and certain people that you are never, ever going to get that apology from. Forgive anyway. That's where it comes in, right? Is just forgive them anyways, because, it releases you from resentment and the toxicity of resentment. Because boy, oh boy, when you're walking around with unforgiveness, it takes up every creek and crevice and space that should be filled with joy and light and love and grace and kindness and redemption and all of those things. But all of those things are being suffocated by the unforgiveness because you're holding resentment and ill feelings towards somebody or something or a situation that keeps you bound.
Yeah.
Right? It keeps you bound. And sometimes, like in the Bible, when I can't remember where it is, but anyways, they're saying to Jesus, like, how many times should I forgive? And he says 7 times, 70 times, right? Or whatever it is. It's basically meaning if it may take more than one time of forgiving them. You may have to forgive them every time that situation or that person comes to mind. You forgive again. I forgive you again.
Yeah.
I forgive you again. I forgive you again. And you're not going to have the opportunity to go to people face to face and say, hey, by the way, I just wanted you to know that I forgive you for hurting me. You're probably not going to have that opportunity either. Do it anyway.
Yeah.
Do it anyway and watch. Watch you hold your head higher. Watch you stand up straighter. Watch you feel lighter. Watch you start to treat yourself and people differently. When you do that.
100%. And the one that's especially hard is the one where you're not going to get the apology.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the worst. Like, how...
Well, because we think we're owed it.
Right. Like,
right?
How come they are not like, who... It doesn't matter.
Well, and you have to look at them through those Jesus goggles that I'm talking about, because you're not getting the apology because they're not in a headspace of being able to understand that they wounded somebody, that they hurt somebody, that their actions and their behavior were inappropriate and unacceptable. They're not there.
Nope.
So you're expecting something from somebody that they're not capable of giving.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hurt people,
Hurt
right?
people, hurt people. Yeah.
And
It's so true.
it is probably the hardest thing to grasp that concept, but when you finally get it,
Yeah.
it is like having a cement brick pad, whatever, taken off of you, because it is so heavy to carry that around. And you don't even, I don't even know that you realize you're carrying it until it's like, you just kind of, I don't know, and maybe that comes with age, but it's like, I'm too old to carry that. Like, I don't want to carry that anymore. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the comparison and all that. Like, I don't, like you said, I don't care. I don't care what you think of me. I just I don't have time for it.
It's like unforgiveness and comparison is like those things are just like choosing, when you choose to hang on to them and you choose to let them dictate your life and how you're going to live it. It's like just dying a slow death. Mm-hmm. Right? Like they just
very much.
Yeah, where you like just let that what go and live.
Exactly. Yeah, there's and it's funny because you can see that in people, and you can tell that they're carrying around, they're just, because they're so angry. They're so angry, and I don't know that all of them even realize that that's probably what it is, a big part of it.
I didn't.
No, I didn't either.
Realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, when you said that to me that day, I guess I was ready to hear it, because it was like, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
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 And it's not an easy thing to do, for sure, but it is a must thing to do, because you just are lighter and you're better for it. And what that person, it doesn't matter what that person, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but that's on that person to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, and they have to go through that themselves and figure that out. And maybe sometimes, you know what, some people never figure it out.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yeah.
And no matter how much you want them to, they just don't. So, all right. Well, we've been on here for an hour, so we'll let you get back to your people. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. And
thanks for having me. It was great.
Anything you want to say to? I guess we're going to put a link in. I guess for only Alberta, though, that would be right for the foster care.
Yes, I sent it to you.
Yeah, I'll put it in the comments.
So that one that I gave you is specifically to our agency. Right. But if people are interested, like, it doesn't matter where you are in Canada or even in the States, you can Google fostering and it will come up and kind of guide you in the right direction.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. But the link that you're going to post
is for Alberta.
Is for the region
your agency,
that I foster.
Right,
I foster in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any final thoughts?
I don't know. I think we've covered lots of it. I think
we did cover it. I think we got it all.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Forgive, live your life, get EMDR going.
Right.
Take your meds if you need to.
That's what we could do, is put a link in there for EMDR. I'll find something for that, and we'll throw it in the comments as well. So.
Yeah, and I mean, if this in any way has touched anybody that's watching this and they have, deeper questions or thoughts or comments or whatever, they can feel free to private message me on Facebook, and
awesome.
Yeah. I'd be happy to.
There's a number of comments on here, so we'll have to go back through them and
okay.
We'll answer and whatever. But thank you again.
You're very welcome.
You can come back anytime.
Okay.
We can eat up an hour, like that's like not even the beginning. We can be on here all day, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I know there's a number of people on here, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who tuned in and commented and participated. And you guys, make sure that you have a good day today. Do something that lights your soul up, whatever that might be. Find a little bit of joy today. Like,
for sure.
I don't care what it is, but something will. Just to kind of get you out of that rut. But all right, we will see you guys all next week, and that's it. That's all. Bye
Okay.
for now.
Bye.